Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome once again to the Dynasty Pulse on FSAN and on the Undroppables and also on terrestrial radio 101.5 talking West Tennessee. I am Biggs, a.k.a. Jameer Biggs, a.k.a. Humongous. I got Grindberg up there, a.k.a. the Canadian Dip. I got Schultzy with me, a.k.a. Schlutzy. And I got Coach Retzlaff, a.k.a. Coach. It's been a long week, but we're rejuvenized. So lock in. We're about to wild out and hammer down to get you bricked up. And now, Grindberg with the news.
All right. That was awesome intro there, Biggs. We're all bricked up for this episode because we are going to be breaking down some head-to-head face-off battles. But first, let's talk about the news and Brock Purdy's $265 million payday. And who's going to be left to catch passes for him? Well, you know what? Mr. Irrelevant, he now signs that franchise cornerstone tag, and he just hit another milestone, that huge contract I mentioned. It raises, dynasty eyebrows, not just because of the investment in Purdy, but due to the unraveling around him. Deebo Samuel is gone. Brandon Ayuk's health is a major question mark headed into 2025. And suddenly, Jauan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall look like legitimate breakout candidates. Dynasty managers must now weigh whether the 49ers are quietly headed into the wide receiver reset or if Purdy's payday will elevate or limit the production of these pass catchers tied to him. Now, Biggs, with Purdy locked in through 2030, does his QB stability raise or cap the long-term upside of the 49ers wideouts in an offense known for spreading the ball out?
I think it can only raise the long-term upside of the 49ers wideouts. And I noticed that you mentioned Jauan Jennings. You mentioned Ricky Pearsall. Who you did not mention were Jacob Cowing and rookie Jordan Watkins. Both of those guys are supremely talented and very, very much under the radar. If I'm in a dynasty league, I'm looking to add both of those to any taxi squad room that I have, any deep bench that I have. One thing that we know about Purdy since 2022, he is 6th in fantasy points per drop back. And according to Ryan Heath at Fantasy Points, that is one of the stickiest stats that you can have at the quarterback position. As long as Brock Purdy is tied to Kyle Shanahan and barring catastrophe in the next 5 years, that looks like it's going to be a match for the length of Purdy's contract. I think that you have to love Purdy's efficiency, and you have to love the fact that it's a Kyle Shanahan scheme. There might be some suppression in terms of fantasy points per game for wide receivers simply because Kittle's in the building. Christian McCaffrey's coming back. They do like to throw the ball all over the yard. So I don't think you're going to find 140 or 150 target monster in the 49ers offense anytime soon. But with lots of spread open offenses, lots of room to run on the field, and a commitment to wide receivers that are high at yak, yards after the catch, I think you can see some pretty efficient fantasy points per touch from all of the 49ers wide receivers.
Hey, I'm with you there, Biggs. For me, it's more so the next 2 seasons with the chance and potential for the duration of the entirety of the contract. It's fragile day to day. Anything can happen. You have injuries, simply poor play can happen. And then, of course, change of coaching staffs and GMs. The 49ers, though, weapons-wise, you kind of spoke to it, but I'm going to kind of point out for it, Biggs. they're more of a dressed up version of the Green Bay Packers, as far as it's very difficult to find who's going to be the main target. We have ideas of who we want. But remember Matthew Berry with whack-a-mole. The Packers are like that on a weekly basis. And heading into the 2025 season, we can see that for the 49ers. Kittle and CMC, outright winners. Pearsall, though, we had that small sample size. Juwan Jennings, here's a problem. Everybody has a way of loving him, but he has a way of finishing as receiver 10, and then 53, and then 27. It's very inconsistent. And Ayuk, health. If he's on track for health, he's the best candidate. He's capped in volume, though. Going back to 2023, Ayuk, 30th in targets with 105. 7th in receiving yards, though. Ayuk hit on efficiency. 2nd in yards per target and yards per reception. 3rd in yards per route run. So the elephant in the room really is, what does a Brandon Ayuk high-volume season look like? And we're just not quite sure about that. So it's going to be good. It's going to raise a rising tide, lifts all boats. I think that's locked in for Brock Purdy. I wanted the 49ers to go ahead and just call the bluff. Don't pay the $53 million and roll with Mac Jones. Even if it were for signing, I wanted to see if it could happen because we knew Kyle Shanahan. But that's just a simulation that is going to be mental. And I remember speaking to it where it's probably not going to happen. It's something I want to happen. But shy of an injury, which we don't want to happen to Brock Purdy, we will not see that simulation played out for Mac Jones. But still, a great high upside cuff quarterback to have on your teams. Matt Kelly was on here, Scott Connor. When we talked about backup, high upside quarterbacks, you need to be looking at Mac Jones. It would actually be smart, too, with Brock Purdy. If you have Brock Purdy as your second quarterback in Superflex, finesse away to go and get yourself some Mac Jones.
I love your whack-a-mole idea, especially as it concerns the Green Bay Packers. I tend to agree with the Kansas City Chiefs as well. Those are all 3 wide receiver rooms that you never really know what's going to happen. We are about a week away from the June 1st cutoff date, and there's a lot of contract controversy around Brandon Ayuk. So it's going to be interesting at June 1st to see what the 49ers are going to do with him. But one thing I do want to bring up, there was an article last week after the NFL schedule was released that talked about a team's rest versus the per game versus their opponent's rest. And last year, the 49ers were in an historic deficit as far as the rest that they were getting every game that they went into versus what their opponents were facing. And we saw a potential Super Bowl team that absolutely got ravaged by injuries. And one of the reasons is because they were not rested for any game. Now, this year, they have the easiest schedule in the NFL, and they also are back on the positive side of the ledger in terms of the rest that they're going to be receiving each week versus their opponents. I think you're going to see a big year from the 49ers. I think you're going to see a lot of wins. They're going to get right back to that 12, 13, 14 win precipice that we see them on. They're going to be rejuvenized, and it's all an amalgamation of this schedule. The way that it plays out for them is going to lead to a much, much healthier season for them. And so I think, like you said, a rising tide lifts all boats. I think all of the wide receivers in that wide receiver room are going to improve over their 2024 fantasy seasons. How we're going to parse that in terms of like a week-to-week thing, maybe it's best ball stacks that we're looking at as the best play, maybe not necessarily in Dynasty, but somebody's got to show out as the alpha wide receiver in that room. And if it's not Brandon Ayuk, it could be one of 4 other candidates.
Well, I'm going to be a little bit more bullish on that then, because like you guys are talking about whack-a-mole, all this kind of stuff in that wide receiver room. And
did we trigger the Chiefs fan?
Yeah, you did.
Oh yeah, that was the third team, right? The Chiefs.
Yeah, you had to. I was waiting. I was like in the sidelines waiting, banging on the glass, trying to get into the game. But you know what? I see this a little bit more clearly. I mean, Brandon Ayuk's situation, yes, it's very clouded. We don't know if he's going to even play at the start of the year, but it opens up some opportunity here. And I think that what the 49ers did in last year's draft showed a lot. And, first round draft capital for a guy, I'm talking about Ricky Pearsall in the last couple of games, he suffered a gunshot wound in preseason last year. So it takes, somebody some time to get familiar with the offense. But, a gunshot wound is another situation that you're having to recover from. He's going to have more targets. He's going to have more snaps, and he's going to have a real shot to carve out a key role early. The 49ers room is thinner now. Debo's gone, and, Pearsall could easily go in and take some of those snaps that Debo had. His final 2 games of 2024, he posted 18 catches, 210 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 23% target share. That late season surge, it showed exactly what he can do when he's featured. His route running, his yak skills, and his ability to create separation, it earned him trust from Brock Purdy. So I'm thinking that he's going to be one of my must-have breakouts in 2025. If there's going to be a receiver that I see has got the potential and, the trust in the coaching staff, I think Ricky Pearsall is that guy, especially with the draft capital that they invested in him. And I saw him as a succession plan for Deebo Samuel, and now he's no longer in the building. And a younger guy version of him, I see this being a very good situation for him moving forward.
Okay, pop quiz, hot shot. Let me throw out some names for you. Casey Washington, Johnny Wilson, Cornelius Johnson, Devon Vele, Ryan Flournoy, Jaquan Jackson, Taj Washington, Taywan Palmer, Bub Means. What do all those wide receivers have in common?
Probably something around the UN score.
They play wide receiver.
They all had higher unscores than Ricky Pearsall coming out of college. I'm not a huge Ricky Pearsall guy. I saw what he did, but I'm not 100% that he can sustain that. And so I'm kind of leaning towards him losing his job despite the draft capital over the next couple of years. He still looks like one of those little toys that you push the button on the bottom and they kind of flop around when he's running routes and stuff like that. He's not efficient in his route running. I'm scared of Ricky Pearsall. Now, what this is going to mean is in a situation where you and I are in the same league, you're going to have Ricky Pearsall and win the championship, and I'm not going to have him and be like, well, I should have been in. But that is what it is.
I just see the opportunity coming up for him, and then that first round draft capital, like they're going to want to use him as much as they can until he can't do it anymore. He's going to have that opportunity right away. And especially with Ayuk, probably being out at least 3 or 4 weeks, I'd say, the reports coming out of camp saying that he's progressing well, but that's hearsay at this stage. And, he suffered a major injury at the end of last year. So I can't see him playing. And then, like you mentioned as well, like that June 1st is creeping up. He may not even be a 49er if that happens. They obviously have some, strength in what they're seeing here in their wide receiver group if they can move on from Ayuk. And obviously, they didn't add to their running back room either. Really, Jordan James is not somebody that I'm really touting about. And there's a lot of.
He only outplayed Bucky Irving at Oregon.
All right, I'll take DJ Giddens every day of the week.
Beautiful. And RJ Harvey. But let's keep it moving. On the same topic, though, I'll go around the room. And granted, Deebo Samuel's out. So there's got to be something there that's going to be available for somebody else to come in. Vacated targets, there is a myth, but there's going to be one less role, one less mouth to feed, right? Now, question, pan around the room. I'll start with you, Schulte. Brock Purdy last year, fantasy points per game was 10th. Overall, QB 14 finish. Do we think, is that range, is it kind of like purgatory where it's 10 to 15 QB finish where, hey, it's not so great, but it's definitely not so bad, not so great, not so bad like Family Guy? Is it 10 to 15 that's a range, or can Purdy run pure in passing and hit like a quarterback 6 finish?
Oh, I easily see the path for him hitting that, like in the ballpark of the 6 mark. And I think like everyone here is just a function of the offense. Like, I don't think anyone is pounding the table that Brock Purdy's, lighting the world on fire by himself. Like the whole group is a function of the offense, right? Except for CMC, and he's coming back, and he's gonna make the efficiency better for everyone else. Like, we've been talking wide receivers here. Jauan Jennings finishes wide receiver 24, and he didn't even pick up 90% snap shares till week 9.
What do you think, Grindberg?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the CMC situation goes, too, I mean, he's coming back from some injuries here that kept them away. Is he going to come back as strong? A lot of people are saying that, are using him as a bounce back candidate for 2025 here. And it's a tough one for me to gather at this stage. They didn't add anybody, like I mentioned, outside of Jordan James. Jordan Mason is now gone. Isaac Garendo, I guess, is going to come in and be the spell back for McCaffrey, because Elijah Mitchell is gone as well. So like the depth in behind there might cause a more pass happy offense here for Brock Purdy. They may not run the ball as much as far as, up the middle stuff, more dump offs. Yeah, I could see this being a very fruitful year for him, even though his pass catching unit isn't as stable as what it looks like at this stage. But, there's maybe more than meets the eye there in that wide receiver room.
All the more reason you should be targeting Jordan James, who, again, let me reiterate, outplayed Bucky Irving at Oregon. He is behind Isaac Garendo, who has had tremendous injury bad luck over the entire course of his career, including his rookie season in the NFL, but all through college as well. And then CMC, who's an older guy on the backside of his career that is suffering from tendonitis in both of his Achilles tendons. But as per your question, Brock Purdy is absolutely stable in that top 10 as fantasy points per game, 14 as, overall quarterback finish. It's the exact floor that you want for if you're going into your startup drafts and you're going to punt quarterbacks for the first 9 rounds. Brock Purdy is that guy that you want to take advantage of. If you are grabbing a quarterback in the first round with rushing upside like Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, then Brock Purdy is going to be your quarterback 2 or 3 that you want, because that's exactly the level of production that you want from your backup quarterbacks to make you a championship team.
Yeah. You know what is a championship team there, Schultze? Is the folks over at the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. Now, we should hear from our sponsor.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.
Not only should you go to FantasySportsAdvice.com, but you should also go to FSAN.shop. The Dynasty Pulse gear is now dropped, both on the Undroppables and on the FSAN shop. FSAN.shop. They have so many cool things, like the Bears logo turned into tears on fantastic sweatshirts and hats. You got the Dynasty Pulse gear. You got the Fantasy Forecast, Grindberg and Biggs. You got that merch out there. There's a ton of stuff. I just had a rookie draft go down in a dynasty league, and the next day after waivers went through, one of our owners is now out of $500 of fab. There's a sweatshirt on there that says all out of fab. So go cop that too. All of the merch. I'm about to put in a huge order, getting ready for the FF Expo. FSAN.shop. Get there.
Let's go, Biggs. I love it. Yeah, way to plug that awesome shop, because Amber's worked really hard to get it up and running, and now it's live as it ever was before, but now it's popping better than ever. Now
Shout out my podcast wife, Amber.
There it is. All right, now let's move on to another news article here, and that is the quarterback room just got a lot more relevant for Dynasty in New Orleans, with Derek Carr announcing his retirement and the Saints opening the season against the Cardinals. All eyes will be on rookie Tyler Shough, a second-round pick. One of the weakest QB classes in recent memory, though Shough has a real shot to start week 1. And while his upside in single QB, formats isn't that sought after, the ripple effect for Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and, more serious consideration in dynasty leagues, there's a temporary situation or the start of a long transition for the Saints. Now, Schulte, if Tyler Shough wins the starting job, how does that impact his long-term dynasty for Chris Olave? Are we a sell high window before his value dips even further?
You know, I'll preface all this with I'm not a Tyler Shough guy at all, but my initial thought here was to hold Olave until we're going to get some training camp buzz or some early season production. He's ranked as a mid wide receiver 3 right now in Dynasty. I think we'd all agree on talent alone, he should be higher than that. I mean, we've got the risk factors baked into that price. I took a look at Dynasty Daddy trade database here, and these are trades that have gone down literally today involving Chris Olave. And these are Chris Olave 4, okay? 4, Devontae Smith straight up. 4, Justin Fields in Superflex. 4, Jaden Reed and Brenton Strange in half-point tight end premium. Jared Goff in Superflex. DK Metcalf. And then the last one, Calvin Ridley and Cam Scatabo. Now, these are all trades I'd be comfortable making if I'm trying to sell Olave. You're mitigating a ton of risk that Olave carries between the concussions and then the QB situation here. If you can get that type of value, yeah, I'm pulling the trigger now. But I have a hard time believing you're going to go out there and find a guy in your league who's going to do that. And that's surprising because I was very shocked that to see as many trades had gone down and ones that I would take. I didn't think the market would be this strong on them. So if you can get someone in that ballpark, yeah, I'm selling. But if you can't, like I said, I'm still holding Olave. You are walking a bit of a tightrope here where if you do hold, this could go completely upside down on you. So I don't blame anyone for anything they do with him. But like I said, if you can't get the value now, I'm holding. There's going to be training camp buzz around the connection with Tyler Shough from aggregator accounts, from beat writers. It happens with every team. And then you're going to be able to ride that wave, right? And looking a little further ahead, I bet you Shough gets a lot of run in the preseason, and he's going to take advantage of some backups and dudes who aren't going to be in the league. And that's going to inflate the value of Shough, which will inflate the value of Olave. And then if you can't get past there, I'm looking to sell Olave before week 6. I don't want him totally long-term. I would be looking to move him, but like I said, my initial thought was not to be moving him right now, but the proof's in the pudding. Apparently you can get some good value. And if you can get a trade similar to what I was seeing on Dynasty Addy, then yes, I'm doing it now. If you can't get that value, I'm going to hold for a little bit.
So for
Hard
me,
disagree.
I'm on the right other side of the train here. And if you would have been privy to the fantasy forecast this week, I had Chris Olave as one of my bounce back candidates. And there's a lot of reasons why I think that this could happen. Yeah, those injuries, that concussion definitely raises a lot of red flags for me. But, you can't discount what he did in 2023, 87 catches, 1,100 yards, 5 touchdowns. His quarterback situation was similar. It wasn't great, but now you got to bring in Kellen Moore, who's had the success with wide receivers. He's helped elevate guys like AJ Brown and, Keenan Allen, CeeDee Lamb. He's shown the ability to maximize wide receiver talent in the system. A rookie quarterback, I think, is going to be in a high volume passing situation. There's an aging Alvin Kamara. Yes, we know their running back room. They got a couple younger guys in Kendre Miller and Devin Neal, but, they don't pose a huge threat to me. So it's going to be Alvin Kamara, leading the route here. And it's going to be, an aging running back that, I think he's going to have some success. I think he's a great value right now where I see his ADP, but I just don't think he's that perennial RB1 guy that you could rely on to carry the load when the games are tight. And I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of tight games. So they're going to be in a very high passing volume this year. And as long as, Olave can stay healthy, he's got that elite profile. He's got the size. He's got great separation tools. And I think he can get downfield really easy. And I think that he's going to be a really good safety blanket for his young quarterback, because I'm thinking that Tyler Shough is going to get that opportunity right away out of the gate there, Schulte. That's why I think.
Yeah, and like I said, I preface it with I don't believe in Tyler Shough at all. So there is a little bit of bias into that answer. But my one rebuttal here is you named those 3 receivers in A.J. Brown, Keenan Allen, and CeeDee Lamb. Now go ahead and name their quarterbacks.
Well, Dak Prescott. And then who did Keenan Allen have? Justin Herbert. And then who was the other guy I mentioned there?
AJ Brown.
AJ Brown was Jalen Hurts.
Right, but you also have Justin Herbert hurt, and Keenan Allen did fine with Easton Stick. You had AJ Brown with the Titans quarterback carousel.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah,
So
but that wasn't Kellen Moore, so that's not.
No, I know, but what we're talking about with Olave is his talent level. Now, one of the things that I've kind of like dropped back on this season and doing my player evaluations is starting to discount injuries. There are so many injuries throughout the NFL all season long, and we tend to kind of like overreact to them. Oh my God, this guy got hurt, and I spent so much draft capital on him, whatever. I made this trade for him, and he got hurt. Everybody gets hurt in the NFL. Everybody. So what happens is you have a guy that gets hurt and typically will come back the next year, play a full season, then may get hurt again. I cannot use injuries in my evaluations anymore, because if I was doing that, I would be looking at just about everybody across the board, except for, say, Jacoby Myers, and being like, well, they have up and down seasons, etc. Chris Olave had a catastrophic injury last year. But we know Chris Olave's talent level, and we know that he's quarterback proof. It doesn't matter who's throwing him the ball. He's going to be the crux of the New Orleans Saints offense. And you have to take his value. If you don't own Chris Olave, now is the perfect time to go buy. Because over the next few years, what you're going to see is the New Orleans Saints capitalizing on their bad draft position and bringing in a franchise quarterback. That's not necessarily in 2025 with Tyler Shough or Spencer Rattler or whoever wins that job coming out of camp. But over the next couple of years, they're heavily invested in Chris Olave. They're going to give him the 5th-year contract. They're going to keep going with Chris Olave. He is supremely talented, and we've known that for a long time. Now, this season, 2025, if you are a contender and you have Chris Olave as an asset, and you can go out and Cam Scatterbo wins the starting job and you can improve your team, then yes, it's an asset worth moving, because you're going to be able to capitalize down the road. The problem is when we're talking about an expiring asset, which Chris Olave is not, you don't want to make that move. You want to keep the Olave and get rid of your expiring assets. So if you have a wide receiver who's in the 28, 29, 30-year-old range, maybe that's the guy that you go and get Chris Olave for, because of the production that's going to be coming in 2027, 2028, 2029.
I think your injury point has merit. I will say I think it is a little bit different of a situation with a guy who's had 4 concussions in the last 3 years. Like,
oh, shoot, fair.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. Like, we've learned that concussions are no joke, and when you start stacking them, like, that's a problem. And I mean, one hit could end this guy's career at this point.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't have any more of those moon balls. But you know what? Like the concussion is definitely a concern, and that ended his season last year. So we'll have to monitor that. But I'm still on that caution side, and if I can get a good price for Olave, for sure, he's on my radar, and I think he's good for a bounce back for sure in a redraft this year. And for Dynasty, he's going to be a tough one. He's going to be a volatile guy, and he might be on the verge of a winning, a guy that you want to pick up later on in the year as a piece to help you win, because I think he's going to have a really good 2025 season. All right, let's move on, guys, to our fantasy face-offs, the rankings, the battles. It's time for the consensus end, and the conviction begins. We're putting players ranked side by side in, consensus rankings head-to-head, and we'll settle up the score. These aren't obvious calls. These are razor-thin decisions Dynasty managers agonize over. Who would you rather build around? The established star, the surging riser, the productive vet, or the high-ceiling rookie? No ties, no hedging, just pure fantasy football combat. Let's get into the matchups and find out who really deserves the edge in the Dynasty squad. So our first battle tonight is going to be Patrick Mahomes versus CJ Stroud. And I did this on purpose because of the intake we had last week with Morris on the Mahomes train. So let's start it off. We're starting this face-off with Mahomes versus Stroud, one of the proven dynasty cornerstones with multiple rings and MVPs. The other is a rising star who's already flashed elite upside and still has something to prove, with both quarterbacks surrounded by new weapons and headed into a pivotal season. This debate is closer than you might think. So CJ Stroud, coach, had a breakout rookie year. We talked about that already. He's cooled off, though, in 2024. He showed us upside, volatility, and he's a young quarterback now with enticing new weapons like Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel added to the mix. There's a ton of optimism about where the Texans offense is headed. On the flip side, we got Mahomes entering 2025 as arguably the best receiving core of his career, and the Chiefs defense lost some key pieces, which could shift more of the load onto the offense. So with both quarterbacks trending in different directions, what do you say here? Is it finally fair to say Stroud is ready to challenge Mahomes or the top dynasty spot, or do you think Mahomes is still asking to get burned?
Man, excellent question. Just one last note. I don't think we're going to get a Bub Means breakout, so he's safe there. But this question is right on cue. Socratic method time. All the pieces are there. Stroud and his weapons. Can Stroud bump from QB 17 to QB 12? Yes. Can Patrick Mahomes go into throw mode with a depleted defense and push towards 5,000 yards? I don't see that, but I see 4,500 being back in the picture. When I did my disrespectful rankings of Patrick Mahomes at 18 a couple weeks ago, I took a look. I adjusted a few quarterbacks. Don't get me wrong, I'm still sour on Patrick Mahomes. Right now on Underdog, when he's getting a QB6, QB7 ranking, I'm not there.
Sour.
But I did bump him up, and I have it, ironically enough, Stroud, Mahomes, 12 and 13 respectively, but I could see it flipping. As far as the top spot, there's a delineation. Biggs was talking about those rushers with the juxtapose with Brock Purdy. You've got Jaden Daniels. You've got Lamar Jackson. You've got Josh Allen. It's those guys in Dynasty. As far as clearing away best quarterback, we know the crown belongs to Patrick Mahomes. But this year in 2025, I think it's a great question. Mahomes versus CJ Stroud. Stroud's path is clear. He has to be Matthew Stafford, has to run pure on passing and touchdowns. Take a guy like Tua. We just talked about concussions, right? But Tua's best season in 2023, 4,600 passing yards in 17 games. Stroud's rookie year, 4,100 passing yards, 15 games. So the pace is kind of there. Mahomes has, and Mike, you'll love this, 2 5,000-yard passing seasons. Mahomes has reached 4,100 mark, which Stroud did his rookie season. He has done that 5 times in his career. And Mahomes has some small juice in the run game, 300 rushing yards last season. 2021, 381. 2022, 358. 2023, 389. There's a theme there. Patrick Mahomes can get you that rushing upside between 300 and 400 rushing yards compared to Stroud. Stroud, 167 in 2023, 233 in 2024. I'm going to venture and bet that in year 3 for Stroud, the rushing yards are not going to go into the 300s. It's not just going to be linear for Stroud. So all those things, the past performance for future performance, I can see it breaking Patrick Mahomes' way. I did like the point that Biggs made earlier. We were talking about the Packers, the 49ers. The Chiefs do have a little bit of that fragility for the target share. You can poke holes in the team. I love Jalen Royals. I'm glad the Chiefs proactively selected him because you have the possible Rice suspension. You have the injury recovery, which seems to be going well. But, Mike, could that be hearsay, as you like to say? And then Travis Kelce, how he was just terrible last year as far as his motivation for getting in shape. Hopefully he learned his lesson. But another year older for Travis Kelce. You had the late breakout from Xavier Worthy. But you're an injury, maybe 2, and then it's a very fragile situation again for the Kansas City Chiefs offense. So that's my bearish take on Patrick Mahomes. I don't see Patrick Mahomes as QB6, as I alluded to before, but in breaking it down, the path is there for Stroud, but he has to run so pure on passing. With Mahomes, there's some outs with the rushing, and I see with a high-tempo passing offense, even if we won't be able to predict who the whack-a-mole receiver is in Kansas City, I think it's Rashee Rice. Patrick Mahomes has that edge to CJ Stroud heading into the 2025 season. So I can see that bounce back there.
Schultz, set these guys straight.
Dude, I'm going to be honest. I'm Team Mahomes here still. We sit here and talk about how much of a down year he had, and the guy was still QB 11, right? Like Stroud's rookie season had the whole world bricked up and drafting him in top 5 of dynasty startups, and he finished as QB 11 that year. So looking at last year, Stroud is QB 18. You're completely buying into Stroud's potential ceiling, where when you look at Mahomes, he's proven the ceiling year in and year out for a long time now, and he's done all that without actively regressing on the field one bit. So he's thrown for 37 or more touchdowns 4 times. And the weapons this upcoming season, like you hit on a little bit with, getting Jalen Royals in. And, they're still got Hollywood Brown. I think Rashee Rice hitting underneath is going to open Xavier Worthy down the field. You're going to get some of that Tyreek Hill magic back. This collectively, like you might not have a dude as good as Tyreek Hill, but collectively, this might be the best group of pass catchers he's had, like as a whole, right? And you mentioned the rushing, yeah. He's going to give you right around in that 300-yard ballpark and a handful of touchdowns. Like that's something CJ Stroud's not going to offer. Mm-hmm. I do think Stroud's due for some improvement here. Like with the new offense, they brought in the Iowa State boys. But in my opinion, we're grossly overreacting to one down season from Pat Mahomes.
And it wasn't even really a down season. If you look at it, he had 16 fewer attempts than he did the previous year. He had a total of 0.7 fewer fantasy points scored, less than 1 fantasy point scored different between 2023 and 2024. And that amounted to a 3-position drop in quarterback rankings in fantasy. Well, what happened in fantasy in 2024? You had the ascension of Jaden Daniels. You had the ascension of Bo Nix. These guys both got themselves into the top 10 because of their rushing upside. Patrick Mahomes didn't do anything different. He didn't do anything different. So I think what we can expect from Patrick Mahomes is a return to the 340-point fantasy points for the season as a floor. That's his floor. Okay. He's done that around 3 times. When they pass more than that, he gets into the 500 point range. That's when he elevates into the top 5. I think that Patrick Mahomes can't be relied upon to be a top 5 quarterback, but his upside is still there. He's still going to hit those numbers occasionally over the rest of his career, but his floor is QB 10, right? You have, and CJ Stroud, now we know that what happens is you have a spike season and you have a down season. Somewhere in the middle lies the truth. That's where CJ Stroud is at, and it's not where Patrick Mahomes is. So nobody hates Patrick Mahomes more than me. Nobody on this planet hates Patrick Mahomes more than I do. And I'm taking Patrick Mahomes over CJ Stroud every single time.
We mentioned the Chiefs defense possibly regressing, allowing, them to throw the ball more here. But on the flip side, the Texans might have a top 5 defense, which is going to just put them in leads and they're going to grind games out. So yeah, we could see passing attempts not soar for the Texans.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And then you never know what happens, right? So let's move on to our next one, guys.
Hold on, Mike. I just got to know, how did all this talk make you feel? You're a Chiefs fan.
Well, it made me feel okay about the situation, and coming from a guy like Biggs who mentioned that he hates the Chiefs. It gives me some optimism. I try to stay focused with my homerism because I could see it being a lot of guys take on their teams and they have like blinders on, and I try to stay away from that. And I've last week when the Mahomes talk went on the show, QB 18. I wasn't quite there, but I had, I wasn't as bullish on him as some of the other people are, because I've seen their situation this year in particular. I think their defense isn't going to be as good. I think they're going to be a worse team in general, and there's going to be stiffer competition in their division. So I just think there's going to be more room for passing. Isaiah Pacheco is proven to be injury prone, and they didn't go out and do a whole lot in the draft. Rashad Smith is a great option there, but it's going to take him a long time to get up that roster spot. And Elijah Mitchell, injury prone. Kareem Hunt, at the pinnacle of his career, at the age gap here now moving downward. So I just see them being more pass happy and needing to stay in games more. And this could be the year for Mahomes to get back onto QB1 territory, which he hasn't been in the last couple of years.
So
let me just say, sorry, I was going to say, I began that segment with the idea that I was going to jump in and say Patrick Mahomes is going to be QB4 in the AFC West this year. And then I started looking at the numbers and I was like, wait, never mind.
Okay, so I'm glad you said that. So we have Daniels, Allen, Jackson, Hurts. Let's just say that they're an agreed upon. That'll be ahead. Let's go. Joe Burrow. What do you think, Schultze? Mahomes or Burrow?
Ooh, this one gets dicey. If we're talking about two like prolific passers, I think that's a much better question than Mahomes or Stroud. I think I'm going to go to Burrow just because they're going to throw the ball a bazillion times again.
Okay, how about Biggs, Baker or Mahomes?
Again, Baker, simply because the number of passing attempts on the Chiefs' offense has dropped by like 150 over the last couple of seasons. Their offense is different than it was when Mahomes was QB1.
How about Caleb Williams, Mike, or Patrick Mahomes?
In Dynasty right now, I'm going
2025 is the now and somewhat near-term Dynasty.
I'm going Caleb Williams here, honestly, and I think there's a lot of reasons behind that. But I just think the up tempo, the new head coach, I think they got upgrades in their system. I know some people might think that Luther Burden for Keenan Allen isn't a great upgrade. I think that's a more versatile weapon in the slot if he ends up playing there. Loveland is a good complement to Kmet. I don't think he's going to go in and steal a whole lot of snaps. I think that versatility there. They made 3 upgrades on their offensive line as well. So a lot of things headed Caleb Williams' way, in my opinion, and I have him a little bit ahead of Mahomes now.
I'm still Mahomes on that.
And I'm not being funny because I'm just trying to find that delineation in that line, because I think we're warming up. Kyler Murray, Biggs, or Patrick Mahomes?
Patrick Mahomes.
Okay, so that's where you start to see Patrick Mahomes versus Kyler. I have Kyler above for the rushing, but that's one mark against my ranks.
I have Mahomes over Williams too.
Okay, now how about Bo Nix versus, because you mentioned AFC West, Bo Nix versus Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes.
But this year in 2025, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm still going with Mahomes.
Okay.
We started off talking about CJ Stroud versus Patrick Mahomes, and Bo Nix had an elite rookie season. There's a big chance that he falls back to the Bo Nix that we all expected him to be. Did his rushing upside come because of the Broncos offensive line? Did it come because of the Sean Payton offense? Did it come because they had confidence that Bo Nix was going to rush? He is Derek Carr with rushing upside. So there's a big chance that just like CJ Stroud after his rookie year, he kind of falls back to earth a little bit. And I'd be more willing to anticipate the Patrick Mahomes jump back to his previous efficiency than to believe that Bo Nix is going to sustain what he did last year.
All right, I got 2 more, and then we'll go to the next topic. Mike, Justin Fields or Mahomes for this year?
Oh, Mahomes for me. I think there's still so much out on Justin Fields. There's so many. I'm going to go with the proven commodity here. I know that Justin Fields has proven himself when starting, but we don't know how tight that leash will be, and where it heads in 2025.
I'm going to go opposite. I'm going to go opposite on that one. I know that Justin Fields, when he has the starting job for the entire season, his rushing upside carries him, and what I just said about Patrick Mahomes jumping up, I don't know if I'm more willing to bet on that than I am of Justin Fields returning to what he did when he was in Chicago, especially if he plays 17 games and he gets it and he has the rushing. We know what rushing does to quarterbacks. I'm huge on Fields this year. And what if this is the Patrick Mahomes and he still finishes as QB 11? Justin Fields is going to surpass him.
All right, last one. Justin Herbert, who I have just behind Patrick Mahomes. So when you said the other three quarterbacks in the AFC West, it did get me thinking, granted, we're not talking about Geno Smith, but Justin Herbert, Biggs, or Patrick Mahomes in 2025?
Mahomes. Okay,
Mike, it's clear the board there. Mahomes?
No. I'm really high on Justin Herbert this year. I think they're going to be a little bit more pass happy. I know they brought in Omarion Hampton, they brought in Najee Harris, but I think it's going to open up a little bit more for Herbert to get back to his status there of QB1. I think he's got stability. He's got that rushing upside too that Mahomes brings as well. He's younger, and I just think that the Chargers are probably, hard to say, in position here for that division this year. I think they're going to be in competition there, and I think they're going to hold a lot of value. They're going to be in a lot of games where they're going to be some high scoring games as well, and I think Justin Herbert's going to have that opportunity to go out and do it.
So Geno Smith, 4,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, book it.
So you can just kind of see those are all the names that I listed shy of Herbert, where I have my question. So some of my bias has been confirmed, and then there's some others where it's more head-to-head. So I just kind of had to do that exercise just so people can see kind of where I'm coming from as far as Patrick Mahomes, because there's a short-term and then there's a long-term window where we see viability long-term for Mahomes. But in 2025, we're trying to win right now. Those are some of the matchups that I'm racking my brain on.
All right, well, let's get into our last face-off of the night, and that is going to be the battle that brings us to the most polarizing backs in this 2025 rookie class, and I'm talking about Ohio State running backs TreVeyon Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, who enter the league in very different skill sets and trajectories. Henderson, obviously, once a top recruit in the nation, overcame injuries, inconsistency at Ohio State, and become a highly efficient, explosive dual threat weapon. Now in New England, he's stepping into a modernized offense with real PPR upside and a chance to carve out a Jahmyr Gibbs type role alongside Ramondre Stevenson. Meanwhile, Judkins enters Cleveland with a powerful resume and a bruising downhill style to potentially take over Nick Chubb in 2025, and he's got limited pass catching chops, and Jerome Ford is still around for third down work. He may be more touchdown dependent early in his career, and the upside is real, but there are some concerns. So Biggs, both of these backs are top 5 rookie picks in most dynasty formats. They're wildly different profiles. Henderson, that elite burst, receiving upside, and that Patriots offense, it looks like it's finally waking up, while Judkins could be the heir to Nick Chubb's throne and Cleveland's run-heavy scheme. So when you're building a dynasty roster for the long haul, are you chasing Henderson's explosive versatility or banking on Judkins' path to volume and goal line touches as the safer bet?
I'm looking at TreVeyon Henderson. I absolutely love his upside. I love his receiving ability. I love his position in that New England offense. I hate Quinshon Judkins with the Cleveland Browns. Jerome Ford is I mean, he's not really a whole lot of competition for Quinshon Judkins, but they did bring in a couple of rookie running backs. I don't know what the Browns were thinking. They drafted 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, and a tight end. They already had running backs and tight ends at home. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know if they're tanking. It doesn't look good for what they have going forward. I do like the trajectory that New England is on. I love Mike Vrabel and Josh. I love Mike Vrabel taking over at head coach. There's only one running back that's going to be challenging TreVeyon Henderson to take over that backfield, and that's Lane Larrison. But yeah, I really like TreVeyon Henderson a whole lot more than I like Quinshon Judkins in situation. Quinshon Judkins as a between the tackles running back, I think is superior to TreVeyon Henderson. And I'm going to defer to Chip Kelly, who ran the Ohio State offense last year to a national championship, and that's kind of how he played it. But the thing is that TreVeyon Henderson, and we know this from 2023, he can run between the tackles also. So then you add the pass catching upside. Like you said, you comped him to Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he's more of a Travis Etienne, a peak Travis Etienne, than he is a peak Jahmyr Gibbs. But yeah, I'm taking TreVeyon Henderson. One thing I'm kind of upset about in this show sheet is that Ashton Jeanty has not been brought up. So I'm just going to throw this out there. Last year, Ashton Jeanty was 206th in yards before contact per carry. 206th. He was second in yards after contact per carry. So do with that what you will. And TreVeyon Henderson, I'm taking over Quinshon Judkins.
Coach, you got any comment on this before we wrap it up for the night?
Oh, yeah. So Quinshon Judkins, we just got some bullish news. Coach speak, but GM speak. Andrew Berry talking about he can tote the rock, full bell cow usage, that the Browns believe in Quinshon Judkins. And it's kind of funny. There was some reticence and reluctance with Dylan Sampson being a 4th-round pick. And it's kind of funny with Lake Effect Snow. It's a bunch of quarterbacks, a bunch of running backs. And anybody who knows about Lake Effect Snow, it just kind of comes down slowly. And then all of a sudden it's up to here. That's what the Browns have, a 3 backfield committee. And just, 3-headed, 4-headed monster at quarterback. It's easier to delineate what's going on at the running back position. Whose superior talent is Quinshon Judkins. So I actually like, at the back of a tier, the fact that you're getting a little bit less than a handful of picks discount in Quinshon Judkins versus TreVeyon Henderson in rookie drafts. And in that tier, if you accordion out where they're going on underdog, where Quinshon Judkins is going in redraft as well, he's at the back end of a tier for the rookies when we speak strictly of all these top rookies. And I don't think it would be sacrilegious to see sometime next year, you've got Jeanty, Hampton, RJ Harvey, Henderson. Let's put Caleb Johnson in there too. Quinshon Judkins is not necessarily 6. And I think he can end up anywhere 1 through 5. And it would not surprise me if it's closer to the top 3. And the beauty is entry point and price we can get for Quinshon Judkins. And you really don't have to make the choice unless you play in one league, right? In the Grindberg Invitational, you play one league. You have to choose Henderson or Quinshon Judkins. On the element, Big spoke well to the Jahmyr Gibbs comp for TreVeyon Henderson and a little bit better ability to run between the tackles. So I love the price point on both players. You need to get requisite share on both in all redraft leagues, best ball leagues, and invest in Dynasty. I think the best price to gain entry point, most bargain, is going to be with Quinshon Judkins. Just look at the cheapest running back and law of large numbers, 1 through 5, 1 through 6. Look at the 2020 running back class. What was it? Taylor, Clyde Edwards, hilarious. J.K. Dobbins, Cam Akers, and there's another running back I'm forgetting at the moment. But all 5 of those, Antonio Gibson, it was not linear for all of them. Everything didn't hit the way we wanted. There was injury. So we will have the unpredictable happen to this draft class. So do not be surprised. Long story short, Quinshon Judkins can absolutely fill up that top tier. I think by practice, you can make that exercise and get the cheapest one at the cheapest price, profit and benefit.
I'm looking at a couple of like the most competitive expert leagues that I'm in. And in one of them, Henderson went 3rd and Quinshon 5th. The other one, Henderson was 6th and Quinshon 7th. So I don't know how much of a discount you're getting, unless you are like trading back because you're in the TreVeyon Henderson spot and you trade back, pick up another pick, and then grab Judkins. I'm totally okay with that. But I think their value is exactly like right there and going back and forth.
Well, actually, Biggs, those 2 leagues, I'm in them, and I made those moves. So that's how I drafted.
You're not in.
I put it up.
I love it. That is an awesome way to end the show. A great joke there, Coach. And let's end this, Biggs, like you always do. so well.
All right. Well, go to fsan.shop. Also go and play Drafters. It's a great best ball game. And I have a message from my partner, Rebecca. She says, hello to everyone from the wilds of Alaska. Check us out on FSAN, on the Undroppables, and on Talkin' West Tennessee 101.5. And we will see you next week. We hope you win.
Hope you win. Peace out, everyone.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No